My name is Fabio Basile and I'm a professional motion graphic artist. For the past 4 years, I have taken full-time roles as motion graphics artist in at least 2 companies. In 2019, I was a motion graphic animator at global beauty manufacturer House of Siage. In 2021, I then joined automotive accessories online retailer Mega Racer. In both positions, I was able to provide support to the design departments at various levels, with my primary role being the production of motion graphics animations. Graphic design is an integral part of my workflow as a motion graphic artist. This means I have a skill set that enables me to provide assistance to fellow designers in relation to different projects that don't necessarily fall under the definition of motion graphics or 3D animation. Sometimes last year in 2022, the design department at Mega Racer was tasked with creating an official 2022 brand guide that will set the standard for look and feel across the Mega Racer brand. At the time, I was provided with frequent opportunities to advise, provide feedback, and sometimes direct the development of Mega Racer's brand guide while overseeing the progress of the design department. This will often require me to create design templates and an array of artwork to facilitate the design department's deadline fulfillment, and most importantly, standard of quality. While there are many projects I could pick that may have presented a slightly higher technical challenge, I will have to reference the Mega Racer intro developed from the 2022 brand guide. As a motion graphic artist at Mega Racer, every project was challenging, which was really what made working on each one of them worthwhile, especially in relation to deadline punctuality, the latter of which hinged on my ability to optimize my workflow. Going into 2022 with a brand new art direction to follow, the new intro was such an important centerpiece for the company, and it's really everywhere across the brand. This required a bit of thinking on my part. The brand was transitioning from a somewhat chaotic kaleidoscope of high-energy kinetic visuals to a more classic, modern, I'd say dramatic, high-contrast look designed to evoke a sense of luxury and premium quality. So I figured, what better way to convey that array of motions with something somewhere in between an organic and artificial kinetic surface. I designed this kinetic wall, as I like to call it, using multiple animated Voronoi fractal patterns within different channels of my shader, creating an ever-changing chrome landscape that I could bring in and out of focus with the camera lens, providing the perfect background for products, props, text, really anything. It will be easy for me to say the Mega Racer intro. That was really fun. But no, actually one of my favorite projects I have worked on was way back during my time at House of Siage, when the company partnered with Amazon Studios to create a limited edition fragrance and cosmetics line promoting the 2019 premiere of the motion picture The Aeronauts. While at House of Siage, I have worked on several co-branding projects, sometimes with Disney, sometimes with some of the most popular Warner Brothers franchises like Harry Potter or the DCU, but The Aeronauts was a bit more special to me. I had the opportunity to work with some of the amazing original artwork from Amazon Studios, such as the original drawings for the hot air balloon featured in the movie, and original textures and assets from which I have learned a great deal. During that time, I feel I really grew as a motion graphic artist. Organization. I am very big into labeling, organizing, filing my work files and assets, and version control. For instance, let's say that I'm working on a skeletal rig. Every joint in that skeleton must be clearly named and that hierarchy must be referenced in IK controls and blend shapes, geometry. I want to be able to glance into the outliner, whether it's Maya, Blender, whatever, and being able to identify immediately a component of my animation rig to be able to edit it on the fly. This mindset really rolls over everything: geometry, rigs, shader, group objects, even external file references. I guess my biggest weakness is that moment, just before I'm about to submit my work for review or peer review. I kind of reel everything in my head, even if I have checked my work 3-4 times already. There is always that thought, have I missed something? Did I do everything correctly? In relation to my strength, I believe in my ability to refrain from saying no. I don't think there is such thing as a project that is too difficult. I have never encountered a project that I wasn't able to bring to completion because I like to think I am going in with enough positivity, and that creates an environment where every tool and every answer I need is at my disposal. I just have to identify it and use it. Very much so. Being open and adaptable to new tools and working methods is the way I have learned what I know today. No, not professionally. With that said, I have a working familiarity with Unreal Engine 4 and 5 and Unity, and I often create Unreal projects as a personal exercise to get familiar with the game development pipeline. I'm well acquainted with the process of generating LOD meshes and texture maps, geometry limitations, node-based shader composition, importing reskinning of game characters, and construction of blueprints. Well, it really depends on the complexity of the real-life object being referenced and its expected application. If it's a model that pertains to a high-quality visual, maybe a few hours from reference to completion for the single object. It could take a little longer for an object with internal components that must be rendered. In that case, perhaps one afternoon at the most. Well, I love modeling. I also love painting textures and animating, of course, but while I'm not a technical artist per se, I will have to say building animation rigs. I love to come up with clever ways to control animated objects in a scene and build viewport controls to perform various tasks, like turning a pair of headlights on and off, animating a face with different expressions, or creating a system to control a touchscreen interface. I've worked on many 3D characters, especially at Mega Racer. Many of our props and vehicles featured drivers or bystanders, at least in some of our earlier projects. Most characters I worked on were human, more or less photorealistic. Most of my compositing I do takes place in After Effects. My typical output files are multi-layer EXR, and my most commonly used layers are emission, spectral, alpha, deep output, index of refraction, and diffuse. I typically use preset LUTs to set the mood, and third-party plugins for light and lens effects like flares, glare, streaks, and so on. Well, most of my roles require me to maintain a mostly photorealistic style. I'm a big fan of the high contrast stylized look often featured in cyberpunk or sci-fi. I guess if I have to pick a few examples, I could name the color scheme used in CDPR Cyberpunk 2077, No Man's Sky by Hello Games, and Curve Games' The Ascent. I'm also into cel-shaded rendering, which is one of the hardest styles to work with, as it's very difficult to convey a believable hand-drawn look while in motion, without ending up with something that looks like a phone filter. So when I do see a great cell shader animation, whether it's linear or interactive, it always captures my attention and imagination. There's really no right or wrong answer, I guess. While I can see myself in some type of directorial capacity, ideally, I'd like to retain an involvement in the production process, if that makes sense. I love to design, I love 3D modeling, rigging, creating artwork, and I think that any advancement in my future career will probably reflect that philosophy.